So coming up this weekend is UFC Fight Night Dariush versus Tsarukyan, also known as UFC Fight Night Austin. This is a fight night I cannot wait to watch. It's going to be fantastic. I'm very much looking forward to it. I have already covered this card in a separate video. I did one last week because we had the break this week as I record it. And in that one, I covered the old card. There has been one change in the co-main event, and we did lose a fight. Jalin Turner versus Bobby Green is the new co-main event. If you only want to hear me talk about that, the timestamps are in the description and also kind of in the part where the video loads, where you can see the time of the video. You can go and just skip to that in the co-main towards the end. And you may want to use those timestamps to skip this intro, because I am just going to talk about myself, because I've got something that I do want to address. Now, to be honest with you, there's probably only a handful of people that were following me and my boxing journey, because as you guys don't know, I have mentioned it a few times because I'm quite proud that it happened. I did have a fight a couple of months ago now at heavyweight, and I did win that fight. I'm very happy that I did the fight, and I did have intentions of pursuing boxing as an amateur career and kind of trying to just kind of see where I could go in that. And I think there were a couple of people that were kind of following that and kind of seeing how I was going to go. I've decided that I'm not going to be boxing anymore. I've actually moved on to another sport that I have been training in for about 6 months now. It's a lot less strenuous on the body. It is disc golf. I mean, it sounds a little bit weird, but trust me, disc golf is a lot of fun. And to be honest, it just kind of comes down to a couple of things. And the real big truth is, I actually just enjoy playing disc golf a bit more than I did boxing. And maybe boxing just wasn't for me. I mean, it's not for everybody. But hey, I might disappoint a couple of people with that news, but I've decided that I'm probably just not going to fight again. Only one fight. I mean, I'm pretty proud of myself that I went and did it. Not a lot of people can say that they did it, but I just kind of thought I'd mention it just for the people that were maybe kind of keeping an eye on where I was going to go. That's kind of it. Before we do get into the predictions, though, I do have a couple sponsors. Of course, we've got my BetUS link there, 125% sign-up bonus, and also a 100% sign-up bonus with my BetOnline link. And you do have a 3-day free trial, cancel at any time, with that We Want Picks premium membership, where you just get access to so many things like that, just there below. And now let's get into the first fight. The new internet at my new house is a lot slower than my old house, so you might have to bear with me, unfortunately. But it is going to be Jamey-Lyn Horth taking on Veronica Hardy. I am picking Jamey-Lyn Horth in this one here. I am seeing quite a few people picking Veronica Hardy, and to be fair, she looked really good in her last fight against, I lost her name, Juliana Miller. But we've kind of learned that maybe Juliana Miller isn't that good. But in that fight, Veronica Hardy was able to mix up her striking with her grappling, because prior to fighting against Miller, she really only had been a striker. She took a lot of time off, 3 years off in fact, but I believe that was due to quite a few big problems. Concussion issues was a major one, and a couple of injuries here and there. Obviously, now she's been training, getting back into it, adding new bits to her game, which could help against Jamey-Lyn Horth, because Jamey-Lyn Horth is a striker. But in my opinion, Jamey-Lyn Horth is going to be very big at 125. She fought at 125 prior to taking that short notice fight against Hailey Cowan, which she won. And she didn't look small against Hailey Cowan, because Hailey Cowan is very big for 135, women's bantamweight. And now she's going back down to her weight class at 125. I think Jamey-Lyn Horth is going to be massive at this weight class. She is a kickboxer. She's got pretty long legs. She's got a decent reach. I think that she can keep this fight at range against Veronica Hardy and win a close decision on the feet. Low confidence pick. All women's fights for me usually are a low confidence pick, just because I'm not good at picking them for some reason. I'm going with Horth. I'm going with Horth by decision. Now let's move on to Wellington Turman taking on Gooden. And this should be an interesting one, because this is another close fight, and it kind of depends on how Wellington Turman looks, because in my opinion, Wellington Turman looked really good against Randy Brown, moving down to 170 from 185. I didn't expect him to look that good, and I think that the move to 170 is going to do him quite well, because I do believe he can go out there and beat Gooden. Turman is a grappler for the most part, but I thought he showed off pretty decent striking in his last fight against Brown. He showed off decent striking here and there. He has been KO'd a couple of times, but that was a while ago. He got KO'd back to back. I believe it was against was it Aaron Sanchez and Bruno Silva. I might have to fact check myself there. But Gooden went on a bit of a run. I believe he fought for XMMA a couple of times, one of my favorite regional promotions. I love XMMA. And also then he fought a couple decent fighters. He fought a couple former UFC fighters. Took on a short notice fight against Carlston Harris to get back into the UFC. It was Andrew Sanchez. I was close. To get back into the UFC. And I thought both guys looked pretty bad in that fight. Both Carlston Harris and Jared Gooden looked pretty sloppy on the feet. Turman, I mean, I'm not going to say Turman's going to be the better striker in this matchup, but I like Turman's ability to mix up the striking with that wrestling and grappling. If he can get Jared Gooden down to the ground, I think he can have success. I even think he might be able to have success on the feet. It's another low confidence pick, but I'm going to go with Turman to win this fight here. Now we've got Ihor Potieria taking on Rodolfo Bellato. And I'm pretty confident somebody is getting finished in this fight. And I'm going to be picking Rodolfo Bellato to win this fight by submission. Now, Rodolfo Bellato, this is a lot of cope from me, but I don't think Rodolfo Bellato is that great, to be honest with you. Against Acacio dos Santos, he put on one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my life. Just took down dos Santos and lay in half guard, which I hope he doesn't do against Potieria, because he could finish him on the feet, on the ground here, I mean. And then he beat Murtaza Talha and injured Murtaza Talha. That's where the cope comes from, because I really liked Talha in that matchup, and Bellato upset him because Talha was injured. Anyway, Ihor Potieria on the feet, he has been absolutely crazy in the past, like super wild. Watch his fight against Dana White's Contender Series. He goes nuts. He literally, honestly, he goes out there and he's just flinging strikes like this, going absolutely crazy. But he's been toning it down a little bit, and honestly, I think that absolute wildness would actually do him quite a bit of help against someone like Rodolfo Bellato. I mean, Potieria has toned it down, and I think he's looking worse. He's got absolutely nothing on the ground at all, so I think Bellato's just going to exploit that. If Bellato was going to have a smart game plan, it would just be to take down Ihor Potieria, who's got no grappling whatsoever, and submit him. I'm pretty confident Bellato wins by submission or ground and pound TKO. If he decides to strike with Potieria, that's where things could get interesting, because Ihor does have crazy power. He does have crazy aggressiveness if he's still got that, if he's still trying to fight like that. I'm going to go Bellato. I've got Bellato by submission. I mean, everyone's got him by KO, but Bellato is a grappler. I like him to win by submission over Potieria, who has absolutely no grappling whatsoever. And now we can move on to another fight, which I believe is going to have a finish in it. Steve Garcia versus Melquizael Costa. And I like Melquizael Costa. I don't like Steve Garcia's chin, man. I mean, it's just not brought up enough in my opinion. In his last 3 out of 4 fights, Steve Garcia has either been knocked out or dropped. He got dropped twice against Jalin Turner, got slipped badly by Mahashate, and then he beat Chase Hooper, absolutely dominated Chase Hooper. Good win, to be fair. And then he got dropped by Jalin Turner, and if Jalin Turner didn't have negative fight IQ and try to wrestle and he just gassed himself out, he probably would have finished Steve Garcia. Melquizael Costa is a better striker than Jalin Turner, is more durable than Jalin Turner. I think he's going to go out there and knock out Steve Garcia. He's got that aggressive Muay Thai striking that a lot of shooter box guys are famous for. He's shown that he can hang with some decent competition. He didn't look bad against Thiago Moises, especially in the first round on short notice, upper weight class. And he went out there, looked really good against Austin Lingo, in my opinion. Showed off his technical striking. Garcia is a machine. I mean, it's in his nickname. But he's chinny, he's not durable, he does have good cardio, and he does have good wrestling, and that is probably his best way to win, because as long as this fight is on the feet, I think Melquizael Costa's got a very good chance of finding that chin and getting the KO. I don't trust Garcia's chin. I like Costa's technique, and I like his power. I've got Costa to win this fight, and I've got him to win this fight by knockout. Now we can move on up the card. It's Joe Solecki taking on Drakkar Klose, and Joe Solecki has made a very sneaky run at 155. I mean, this guy has gone 5-1 at lightweight, one of the best weight classes in the UFC, and he's not really being talked about as a borderline top 15 guy, because in my opinion, he has proven himself to be very good. He was meant to fight against Benoit Saint Denis. In hindsight, that probably wouldn't have gone his way. Probably quite lucky he ended up getting Carl Deaton III instead, but he does have a couple good wins. He beat Jim Miller, who's been turning away some guys. Austin Hubbard was on The Ultimate Fighter, he took him out. Drakkar Klose has kind of always been a top 15 or borderline top 15 guy. He took a lot of time off, come back against Brandon Jenkins, absolutely destroyed Brandon Jenkins. I mean, Jenkins showed off a good chin, I guess, but that was a domination from Klose. And then he beat Rafa Garcia, who's a good boxer wrestler. Joe Solecki is a grappler, and that's kind of all he is, really. He doesn't have the striking that Klose does, And I don't think he's going to have the wrestling that Klose does either. So as long as this fight is on the feet, I think Drakkar Klose is going to have the advantage. I like Drakkar Klose on the feet. I like his ability to keep the fight on the feet as well. So give me Klose to win by decision. Maybe he can find a KO, but most likely a decision in a striking fight where Joe Solecki is trying to get the fight down to the ground and Klose is just defending the takedowns and keeping the fight on the feet for like the 5th time that I said that. Now we can move on. Cody Brundage taking on Zach Reese. If you guys aren't familiar, I'm really high on Zach Reese. I think Zach Reese is really good, but there are a lot of red flags that I will acknowledge before we do get into the breakdown, just to kind of save myself in case Zach Reese makes me look like an absolute idiot. Zach Reese has won every single professional fight that he's ever had in the first round, and most of them in the first minute or 90 seconds, which is nuts. It's absolutely crazy. But it's a great thing, but it's not so great a thing. If you do look closely, he hasn't really fought the best competition aside from Eli Aronov. He did beat Aaron Phillips, who was on the Ultimate Fighter, won by guillotine choke in that one there in 33 seconds. But from what I see about Zach Reese, we don't know if he's got good cardio. We don't know if he's got a good chin, and we don't know if he deals well with adversity. And that's the problem with a lot of guys that have a lot of first round finishes. We just don't know what they're like when the fight leaves the first round, when the fight going does get tough. But I like Reese, man. Reese, he's 6'4" at 185. He seems like he's got very technical striking. I'm seeing him training over in Thailand, probably working on a striking there. He's got slick BJJ, showed that off against Eli Aronov, has shown that off against a few guys. Reese, to me, looks like he does have the makings of being a prospect at this weight class. And Brundage is a solid fighter. He is a boxer, wrestler, mainly a wrestler, but he can box. I mean, he thinks he can box at least. I thought that the fight against Jacob Malkoon, I do believe that was an illegal elbow, to be honest with you. Like, what was Jacob Malkoon doing throwing an elbow in that position? And to be honest, I don't really blame Brundage for milking that position because it got him another chance in the UFC at least. It got him another paycheck. Maybe even got him another contract, who knows. But I just see Zach Reese winning this fight, man. Zach Reese, I think he's the real deal. I've been proven wrong on fighters before. I was really high on Esteban Ridovich and he lost. And most embarrassingly, I was very high on Joseph Holmes. That was a bad one. Hopefully Zach Reese isn't Joseph Holmes and he's more like, I don't know, just like a really good prospect. Now we can move on to Miesha Tate versus Julia Avila. Miesha Tate is a legend of the sport. I believe she was a Strikeforce champion way back in the day. Maybe it was Invicta FC. It was Strikeforce way back in the day. And then she became the UFC champion. Had a fight against Ronda Rousey. I believe she had a couple against Ronda Rousey. Ultimate Fighter against Ronda Rousey as well. But I just don't think she's got it anymore, to be honest with you. She took about 4 years off. Made a big comeback. Beat Marion Renault. But Renault was like 43 years old at the time. Then she lost to Ketlin Vieira. Honestly, quite excusable, but she did show off. I laugh every time I think about it. The worst karate stance I've ever seen in my life in that fight. And then she lost and got out-wrestled by Lauren Murphy. And Miesha Tate, a woman that has been known for having an incredible wrestling base. She had a very good wrestling career, when she was in college or high school, I believe it was. Very good wrestling base. Getting out-wrestled by Lauren Murphy, that just tells me she doesn't have it anymore. But Julia Avila, who knows what's really been going on with her? Well, I do know. She had a kid. I think I said that she had an injury. It turns out maybe she didn't have an injury. She just kind of focused on having the kid, which does make a lot of sense, to be honest. But she hasn't fought in 2 years because of that. We don't really know how she's going to look, but I think she's just going to look better than Miesha Tate. Very, very low confidence pick. I'm picking Julia Avila, not because I'm picking Avila, but because I'm fading Miesha Tate. That's literally the breakdown. I'm sorry, I just don't really have anything to go off here, aside from the fact that Avila hasn't fought for 2 years, and Miesha Tate just does not look like herself anymore at all. Now we've got Clay Guida taking on Joaquim Silva. Sorry. That would be a crazy fight. It wouldn't be fun to watch for poor Clay Guida, who is a legend of the sport. Clay Guida, man, this guy keeps going. He's almost 42. He's not really showing any sign of retirement whatsoever. Like, Clay Guida versus Jim Miller, UFC 300, that could be it, man, honestly. Like have a big send-off for both guys. But Clay Guida, he's been around, man. This guy's had so many pro fights. Over 60 pro fights, if my math is mathing at midnight right now. Joaquim Silva just gave Arman Tsarukyan a pretty tough fight. And that's kind of what it comes down to, because in that fight, He did show the ability to defend takedowns that I didn't really know that he had, and I think he can defend the takedowns against Guida. And on the feet, I do think that Silva's going to be a little bit more dangerous. I think he's going to be a little bit more technical at this point. And he does have BJJ as well, isn't his nickname. So Guida, I can see Guida winning this fight, but he's going to have to wrestle, and just keep taking Silva down, making Silva work to get back up, and just doing that rinse and repeat. But I think I can see Silva defending the takedowns and making it a bit more of a striking fight than Guida is going to want it to be. So I like Silva here. Low confidence pick, but I'm going to pick Silva by decision. It should be pretty fun. A lot of people may be on the KO side. I think he KO'd Jesse Ronson recently. He did. And then he did knock down Arman Tsarukyan, of course, which would have been crazy if he managed to upset him. And now we have Punahele Soriano taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. And Punahele Soriano finds himself on another main card. The UFC always puts this guy on main card. It's crazy. I mean, Soriano's had so many opportunities to become a big name. And I think the UFC is just trying to push him, man. And I am actually quite happy that Stoltzfus got another opportunity, because he did get one win over Dwight Grant. But Dwight Grant, I believe, was moving up from 170. It's a win. And then he took on Abus Magomedov. Now, Abus Magomedov, he did give up in his last 2 fights, but he has fought decent guys. And Abus Magomedov's a good fighter. Like, yes, he knocked out Dustin Stoltzfus in 20 seconds. That did happen. But I think Abus does have a lot of skill. He just doesn't have cardio or heart, which is kind of a thing that really does matter in the UFC. Stoltzfus is a grappler. Quite simply put, he's not going to be as good at striking as Soriano. And Soriano has shown insane KO power in the past as well. I mean, Soriano, I think he got a KO in his most recent fight, but before that, yeah, KO Justice Todorovic as well. Where was I going with that? It is midnight, let's just move on. I'm picking Soriano by KO, by the way. I think he's going to be much better on the feet than Stoltzfus. Stoltzfus shouldn't be able to get Soriano down. Soriano does have a wrestling base. He did get out-wrestled by Nick Maximov, and I am kind of happy I picked Maximov in that fight, because a lot of people clowned me for that pick. Maximov has a wrestling background as well, college wrestling background as well, if you really look into it. So does Soriano. I like Soriano, though. I like Soriano by KO. He should be able to keep it on the feet and get the KO. Speaking of keeping the fight on the feet and getting KOs, we've got Sean Brady taking on Kelvin Gastelum, and I am picking Gastelum here to beat Sean Brady. Honestly, man, I mean, I was really harsh on Sean Brady in my last video, and someone commented that he watches prediction fights, so I'm sorry, Sean Brady, you probably hate me. But the truth is, Brady quit against Belal Muhammad, and he showed, man, that when the going gets tough, he just don't want it no more, man. That's exactly what happened, you know. But Sean Brady took 1 or 2 good shots from Belal Muhammad, and that was it. He had no ability to get out of it. He had no ability to fight through it. And Kelvin Gastelum is going to be a better boxer than the great Belal Muhammad. And I think Kelvin Gastelum should have the takedown defense, especially moving down to 170 to keep the fight on the feet, to put Sean Brady in uncomfortable positions on the feet. Now, Brady, very talented wrestler grappler, but when the fight is on the feet, he just has no striking whatsoever. I did actually pick Belal Muhammad to beat him in that fight, and that was actually a big reason why. Because Michael Chiesa was piecing this guy up, man. Michael Chiesa is one of the worst fighters, worst strikers. Hold on. Michael Chiesa is one of the worst strikers in the UFC. And he was piecing up Sean Brady. Brady's got no striking. Gastelum does. That's what it comes down to. I think Gastelum wins by KO. Brady has shown in the past that when the going does get tough, he's not willing to fight through it. Maybe he's changed that. Maybe he's found something in his heart, in his soul. But until then, until I see it, I'm going to go with Gastelum. Got to go with Gastelum by KO. I think he gets Brady on the feet here. Now we've got Rob Font taking on Davison Figueiredo. Figueiredo moving up to 135. And for ages, I loved the idea of Figueiredo moving up to 135. But now that it's happened, I don't love it so much, man. I'm picking Rob Font. Very low confidence pick. I actually would like Figueiredo to win because I think he would shake things up and it would add to his legacy, which is already pretty solid at 125 pounds. But I think Rob Font might be a difficult matchup for him. Rob Font is going to be a lot bigger than him. I know that Figueiredo was massive for 125, but at 135, who knows how big he really is going to be compared to these guys. Rob Font isn't small for 135. He's a very good boxer. He is pretty old now at this point for the weight class. He's 36, but he hasn't really shown too many signs of slowing down, I guess, because at the end of the day, he did look really good against Chito Vera, aside from the times when he was getting knocked down. Like, I know that might sound very ironic, but he was outlanding Marlon Vera in that fight. He was looking really good against Marlon Vera in that fight until Vera landed something big and then knocked him down like almost every single round. But you got to admit, Font was looking good in that fight. He lost to Jose Aldo, but Aldo is one of the GOATs. I mean, that happens. Beat Adrian Yanez in a boxing fight. Just landed really good on him. Yanez got a little bit too excited, and Font just kind of got him. And then he took on Corey Sandhagen on short notice and got out-wrestled for 5 rounds. I mean, Sandhagen on short notice, that's always going to be a tough fight. Figgy wants to win this fight. I think he's going to have to mix it up, but I think Font can keep it on the feet, keep it at his boxing range, outbox him with the longer reach, with the bigger size as well, I believe. And I think Figueiredo is just not going to be able to really kind of just outmuscle these guys at 135 like he could at 125. So give me Rob Font. Give me Rob Font to win a 3-round decision against Figgy. I'm very much looking forward to it, though. I want to see how Figgy looks at 135. And now we've got the new fight, the short notice replacement, and Jalin Turner taking on Bobby Green. Now, sorry guys, I had to cough for like 20 minutes. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to Jalin Turner versus Bobby Green personally. Both of these guys are dangerous, especially Jalin Turner, and especially Jalin Turner in the first round. I mean, Jalin Turner against Dan Hooker in round 1 was looking really good. He was looking really good against Dan Hooker in round 2 as well, until Dan Hooker kind of stole the round at the very end. And then it seemed like Jalin Turner slowed down a lot. It seemed like Jalin Turner didn't have the best gas tank in that Hooker fight, and he slowed down, and he did drop the last 2 rounds, the second round being very, very close though. Now Jalin Turner is taking on Bobby Green on short notice, and on a full camp, I'd be very confident in Jalin Turner to win this matchup. But the thing about Jalin Turner is he is absolutely massive for 155 pounds, and he's now got to make 155 on what, 9 days? I think it's going to be a tough weight cut for him, man. Like, I know that Jalin Turner has made weight most of the time in the past, but you still got to admit, he's huge for 155. If he can make the weight, and if he can make the weight safely, I think he finishes Bobby Green. He's very dangerous on the feet, very good striker. Some people thought he beat Gamrot. He took Gamrot on short notice. It was Gamrot taking him on short notice, but he still accepted the fight. He beat Brad Riddell, dominated Brad Riddell, won in like 40 seconds. Beat Jamie Malarkey, beat Urosh Medic. Good wins, man. I think that Jalin Turner can go out there and beat Bobby Green. Bobby Green is a boxer that can wrestle. I don't think he does wrestle. I think Turner goes out there and takes it out. But the thing is, though, if the fight leaves the first round, I think that Turner could show signs of slowing down. But I actually am going to pick Turner to win by KO in round 1. I know Green's a tough guy. I know Green's a guy that doesn't really get finished. But I think Turner's the real deal, man. If he can make that weight safely, I think he goes out there and gets the KO in round number 1. And now we've got Beneil Dariush taking on Arman Tsarukyan. This is a fight that a lot of people are quite divided on. I am on the Arman Tsarukyan side, but we're going to learn a lot about these guys. How good is Beneil Dariush really? How good is Arman Tsarukyan really? Was Beneil Dariush really that good in the first place as well? I mean, there's a lot to hear. I'm starting to lose my voice. It is midnight as I record this. I could have chosen a better time, to be honest, but I was busy today, so. Arman Tsarukyan, 27 years old. He is a wrestler. His striking is improving. He looks really good against Demir Ismakilov. Not so good against Joaquim Silva. Silva gave him some problems, but he did end up doing a lot of damage to Silva in the end and managing to get the finish there. I do think he can beat Beneil Dariush. Now, on the feet, Beneil Dariush might actually give Arman Tsarukyan some problems, and he might give Arman Tsarukyan some problems in the wrestling as well, because Beneil Dariush, really, really good performance against Mateusz Gamrot, was able to reverse a lot of the positions that Gamrot was going for, and Gamrot, in pure wrestling, is an incredible pure wrestler in the UFC and MMA at 155 pounds, so there's definitely a lot of reason to try and pick Beneil here, but I like the younger guy, man. I like Arman Tsarukyan. I think Tsarukyan will be initiating the wrestling, but I think he can kind of get it done, get the fight in his dominant positions. On the feet, it could be a little bit close because Dariush is a good striker, but at the end of the day, man, I think that he's going to wear on Dariush and kind of take over the fight towards the end. So let me know what you think in the comments below. A lot of people out there picking Dariush. I do like Arman Tsarukyan. I do like Arman Tsarukyan to get it done here, probably most likely by decision. Beneil's a tough guy. Beneil's a guy that is the top 5 guy for a long time, but I think Tsarukyan, man, I think Tsarukyan's the real deal, and I think we see it getting done. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.